Hi, so this week I'm not going to talk as much for the intro. I'm just going to get into making some collage papers from an old dictionary pages. And I also just want to point out that I have been trying to separate out the deep soulful thinking and then just make the art videos. I'm trying to work out what's best for, the videos, the ideas. It's hard to figure it out in the beginning. That's where I'm struggling because I have so much to say. So how do I edit myself and just maybe make the art section and then just maybe make the soulful videos. So I do have that stripped down studio sessions, which is just me talking about random things that emerge, and then I'm gonna this week we're just going right into making these collage papers. I just wanted to say that, and let's just make the work. So I wanted to talk a little bit about making collage papers and how I do it. This is just an old dictionary. I like to look on the free shelves. A lot of people don't want dictionaries anymore, but so I can find them a lot of the time. Luckily, there's a place in the area that has a free shelf, so I'm always going and looking for old books. But I am drawn to the dictionaries just because I love words so much. And I love the randomness of the pages. So that's one way I'll start to make collage papers, and I'll show you that here. The older books, it's easier to rip the pages out as well. I'll just take a section and it's totally random, not really paying attention to it. And the way I like to set it up is just I like to do 6. Let's see. And I just set it up like that, and then I'm gonna work with some paints and crayons and random maybe markers, and just kind of have fun. It's not really serious. Is it ever? That might actually be too much paint. Just kind of going around and making similar marks. Using the similar colors for each page. Just because then that will start to tie into my work, the way I build it. Whoops. There isn't really a rhyme or a reason. It's kind of just getting the color down. This is just a marker. I like these. They're Faber-Castell, the $1.99. So a thick one. Just kind of fun to play around. You can do, you know, as much or as little as you want. You think about it, if it's gonna go into a work, it's gonna get covered up, you know. So it may or may not matter, but that's gonna be dependent upon what you want to do with it. All of these things really are ultimately dependent upon what your intention behind it is. And maybe you want some more delicate marks on there. I think I could see some yellow in here. Of course, this is just one way to do it. There's many ways, right? So that's good enough for me for this set, and then maybe I'll make another set and I'll speed it up so you get an idea of me not talking about it. Okay, so I just wanted to talk a little bit about, we made the collage papers here on these old book pages, or dictionary pages is what they are. And so I wanted to talk, like maybe show you a little bit how I would start to think about it. I'll just use this example into here. Kind of like let this page show, and that, to me, that's how I'm leaving it. So I like to sometimes leave it exposed and then have mark making into it, but also the other element can be where it starts to get more covered I'll probably paint over that completely eventually. So I'm like building this paper layer, and then I'll be able to like scrape through it if I want to. And then, so I thought I would work on this piece a little bit and show you how I might incorporate the collage element into the piece. This piece is kind of like in some messy middle of an idea or thought. And what happens is the way these pieces kind of form, and sometimes I'll rip it, start to get like a clearer idea of what I want maybe to happen. It's collage for me is, it helps me build in my edges. So instead of like painting in like an edge, I kind of build in an edge, and that's how I found it works best for me. It helps me see it in a different way. But so none of this stuff is like set in stone, right? We're all gonna find our different approaches to how we're moving around the surface and like what we're deciding to do. See, so now see how there's that yellow in the collage piece? What happens when I take these pieces and put them in there, I have something to respond to back to the painting. So I grab that yellow and I'm gonna like build off of that. But that's just catching that little fragment. And then you see how I kind of automatically lined it up to this line that's going in that is the yellow. Those things are all subtleties that I'm paying attention to. And like that's something you come to learn the more you work over time. And it's definitely a process, right? Because you have to just determine that this collage is the way you see the hard line, and then this color that we just made out of these pieces is the way you're gonna determine that color, and then this has an interplay with those lines. So all these things kind of have their own voice in a way, but sometimes we want to shut them up, right? And then that's when we like make a different change, but sometimes we want them to talk to each other. So we want to have them have the conversation. So you could think about like color and line, shape, and form as like a conversation. And then when they're having the conversation, you're composing those elements together. So I guess as the artist, you're like the ultimate conductor of this painting. So I'm just gonna play a little bit on the surface of this canvas and see. Sometimes I'll like take a paper and go like that, and then see, that's gonna make another difference in the way I see that collage piece. And then because these are larger, I might even use a whole page. You know. It's all kind of talking together. And maybe you want that not, you know. And then you could take this blue and kind of respond to that blue. it's just like a way to see what's also neat is if we cover this up completely, which and build upon the layers, then eventually you could also like rip through, which that's just something I'm interested in. It's not necessarily like everybody's aesthetic. I think it's because I like to try to treat this canvas surface like paper, and in building my works on paper, I have like a very like layered paper and paint process, and so that kind of interest falls into this canvas piece, and I was trying to figure out for myself, like over the last year, how can it translate, but I didn't always see like how it could translate. What's exciting to me is that I'm starting to see how it can translate for me. And it's like, I think it's really personal, just like anyone's art is super personal and individual. So like some of these ideas may or may not sound interesting, but that's okay, because it's more about like finding your way anyway. And then you could always like try something out, and like maybe you keep it and maybe you don't. So that's kind of what we're talking about in this experimental process. It's not really it's like the art of non-attachment, which is so hard to do anywhere, and that's why we have the practice. And everyone gets the chance to discover that for themselves, which is so cool, right? I really love art making for that, because it means it's available for all, and no one can really take these ideas. And everyone's taken and borrowed from each other before, but what I mean is, you're going to start to compose everything you love out of the inspirations that you find, out of the other teachings and teachers that you find. And then you're going to start to take it and make it your own, right? And that's a goal here. So these are just some ways I use these papers. And like when I'm starting to work into like a work on paper, ooh. I'll do the same kind of thing, right? Maybe I'll like see, oh, this red, and like I'm capturing that red part, and there's already, do you see that? There's already this like loopy line impression, and there's this loopy line here. So sometimes, like, it's kind of like, did you ever play the game of memory? It's like making a match. But this was done, like, weeks ago, just lying next to me. And these were just done, right? We just made these collage papers earlier in the video. So that's what you want to pay attention to. And I'm getting excited because those are the through lines, right? The stuff that we're, like, doing, and we don't know, like, maybe why, or it doesn't make sense. But then you notice it coming through, and the different elements and the different ways you start to like you compose it into the work, and then that's what's building that style and voice in the end, following all of those lines and those little like hints. It's like going on a treasure hunt or something, looking for the clue. And when you do enough of it, eventually it all becomes automatic. Or, well, that's the hope, right? The hope is to be, like, always in that flow state. And then that's what makes it easier to just, like, dive in. And you could say, this blue is coming from this color, and then maybe you put it over here. And you go on another adventure in this moment. Anyway, that's just some ways that I utilize the collage elements, like when I make the papers. I also like to have the papers form on their own, so when I'm working, I might have a pile of papers next to me, and just, you know, use them. Instead of using a brush, I'll use this to like cover the surface, and then look, I have like a neat paper that I can reuse. It's an interesting way to think about it, and maybe, you know, you take an element you like out of that idea and then leave the rest behind, who knows. But that is exciting to me, and it just happens over time, these like transformations and these natural progressions out of ourselves into the work and putting it all together, and that's like, that could be really exciting. So